Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Off the Bench podcast. My name is Robert Sellers, and rivalry weekend of college football, week 14, has just come to a close, which means, yes, college football fans, you can finally exhale. The stress of rivalry weekend is finally over, and certain fan bases are rejoicing right now. Ohio State finally broke the hiatus. The 5 year drought of no wins over the Michigan Wolverines is finally over for the Buckeyes. Michigan fans, of course, are very, very sad about that. Ohio State fans rejoice. Alabama gets a sixth straight win over the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. Big time win for the Auburn Crimson Tide. A nail biter. Another classic finish in Jordan Hare Stadium in the Iron Bowl. And the Tide once again came out on top. And what else happened? Oklahoma somehow, by the strings of a blown coverage, was able to come back and beat the LSU Tigers. And Oklahoma sealed their playoff chances. ESPN seems to think so. We'll talk more about that later. Notre Dame right now is in a battle with Stanford, and it's not much of a battle. I think Notre Dame's probably up by at least 5 touchdowns at this point, so they'll probably get that win. Vandy went on the road and got their biggest win of the year, knocking off Tennessee, red hot Tennessee, or should I say orange hot Tennessee, in Neyland Stadium for a big time victory on the road in the SEC, boosting their college football playoff chances. Of course, all the Friday night games were amazing. Georgia got a big win over a rival. Texas upset Texas A&M, which was crazy. I picked Texas A&M to win the game. Texas won it. Not the most shocking thing of all time, but a big win for the Longhorns. And of course, all the Lane Kiffin drama. I mean, we still don't have an answer yet. As far as I'm concerned, the clock just hit midnight when I'm recording this in Central Time, and we still do not have an answer from Mr. Kiffin. So I guess it's a Sunday thing. I guess we'll see. Maybe I'll wake up in the morning and the answer will be out there. In my personal opinion, I think he's going to LSU, but we're going to talk more about that later. I think the most compelling story of this rivalry weekend was the Ohio State Buckeyes finally taking down the Michigan Wolverines. Of course, everyone knows Michigan has won 4 straight against the Buckeyes. And how did they do that? They ran the ball better, they dominated the line of scrimmage, and they won the turnover battle. I mean, that's been true in almost every single game that Michigan has played against Ohio State the last 4 years. And those are the main two reasons they won the game. Well, look at the total stats in this football game. Guess who had more rushing yards? Ohio State. Guess who had less turnover? Well, I guess the turnovers are about the same, but Michigan did not win the turnover battle. This is a game that Ohio State dominated. In my opinion, the main reason why Ohio State won this game, yes, Julian Sain was awesome. Yes, the run game was awesome. But I think the whole thing can be boiled down to third down efficiency. Ohio State was 10 of 17 on third down. Michigan 1 for 9. Ohio State converted third downs like it was no problem. And because of that, they were able to keep their offense out on the field for pretty much the entire game. As you can see, time possession wise, Ohio State had 40 minutes of time of possession. Michigan only had 20. Ohio State was on the field for twice as long as Michigan was because they kept on converting third downs. I thought Julian Sain played so smart with the football. I mean, it is crazy that this kid is still just in his first year as a starting quarterback. He is technically a redshirt freshman, I think. And he's out here just playing so smart. You never see him forcing the ball into a coverage that shouldn't be there. Of course, it sort of feels like he does miss some open reads sometimes. I think he's still young. I think he still needs to develop in terms of progression. But he's a great quarterback that is smart with the football and really takes care of it. And his deep ball is pretty. At least like the form looks a little weird, at least in my opinion, but the ball looks as pretty as ever. Of course, having Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate back was big for Ohio State. Of course, the big controversial thing in this game was, did Jeremiah Smith score that touchdown at the beginning of the football game? In my opinion, I thought it was so close. I completely understand the call on the field because it is so hard to call that a touchback in real time. I thought that it was a touchback, but I completely understand the officials sticking with the call on the field. I think that just 100% makes sense. I think it was the right thing to do. And honestly, like, yes, you can complain if you're a Michigan fan or if you wanted to see Ohio State lose. You can complain all you want about that being a touchback. And honestly, you might be right. It might have been a touchback. I think it is. But whether or not that was a touchdown has nothing to do with you going 1 for 9 on third down. It has nothing to do with you only have 163 yards passing. It had nothing to do with you having zero ability to generate any pass rush the entire game. So yes, you can gripe about that one thing that you have no control over, but at the end of the day, Ohio State beat you. They beat you in almost every facet of the game. More first downs, better on third down, more total yards, more passing yards, way more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play, and way more time of possession. So yes, you can complain about one play if you really want to, if that's really what you want to do. But Ohio State was clearly the better team in this game, and they clearly were. And they have been the better team than Michigan. At least last year they were, and they didn't win the game because they made dumb mistakes. And Julian Sand only made one dumb mistake in this game, and it happened at the very beginning. So a big time moment for Ohio State. I thought it was awesome, and I'm not a Michigan hater, but I thought it was awesome when Brutus, the Ohio State mascot, went out there and drew an X on the Michigan M and wrote Ohio. That is so cool. Like, I know you could consider it to be disrespectful. I get it, but I thought that was so cool. That's what rivalry games are all about. My bad. I loved the snow in this game. I think the snow games are just so awesome, and it was huge win for Ohio State. And I also loved what Ryan Day said in his press conference afterwards. He said, "You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna win with humility, and we're not gonna go out here and flaunt this victory." And I don't think they did. I think Ohio State did this with a lot of class. I understand the Brutus thing. I get it. No, that's the mascot though. Let him be a mascot. But I think overall, Ryan Day handled this with a lot of humility and a lot of grace, and I think he did a really good job in that. And Ohio State's a super scary team, and when we already knew this going into it. Ohio State's defense, of course, is their crowning jewel, their reason for them being so elite. And their defense really held things down in this football game. Of course, they only allowed 163 yards of total offense, which is, like I said, is incredible. They were so good on third down. Their corners are so good. Jermaine Matthews and Donovan Igbinosun are so good. And of course, Caleb Downs is such a veteran out there. Sonny Styles is so good. Arvell Reese is really coming on as one of the best linebackers in the sport. And I mean, Ohio State's defense, man. I don't know how anyone's going to be able to score against Ohio State. That Indiana game next week is going to be phenomenal. I cannot wait to watch that game. And I also think the Heisman Trophy is going to be decided in that football game as well. I think the winner of that game, probably their quarterback, is going to win the Heisman Trophy. And I could be wrong, but I think that's probably the way it'll go. But for Michigan fans, of course, the season sort of ends here, which is unfortunate, but it makes sense. You lost your three biggest games. You had a chance. You had a great chance here to make the Big Ten championship. Of course, you wouldn't have because Oregon beat Washington. But you had a chance to maybe have an argument to make the playoffs. But now, of course, that argument's down the drain. And I think that this was a productive year for Bryce Underwood. I think that if you really want to shine with Bryce Underwood, I think you need better wide receivers around him. I've been saying it all year, and who knows? Maybe Marsh grows into a really, really elite wide receiver. He's a true freshman. He's a really highly recruited kid. He could develop really, really well. But this year, with guys like Samaj Morgan being on and off the field, with Donovan McCulley being not very consistent, and with Andrew Marsh still just being a freshman, I don't think Bryce Underwood had the talent around him to really win very much of anything this season. That being said, of course, Michigan's got the transfer portal period. They've got a lot of opportunity to go surround Bryce Underwood with as much talent as they can. I just don't think that they've done that quite yet. So, of course, the road ends here for Michigan, but the road just starts here for Ohio State. 12-0, man. Ryan Day is doing some phenomenal things. Ryan Day needs to get just adored in the state of Ohio and in the city of Columbus. I feel like barely anyone is still. I don't know. Maybe I don't live in Ohio. I don't really know how it goes over there, but I feel like Ryan Day is still not 100% accepted up there. He should be. Ryan Day's such a good coach. He's done such a good job at Ohio State. He's achieved so many things. And, I mean, he's just a few wins away from back-to-back national championships and the first ever, what would this be, 16-0 perfect season? It could happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could happen. So congrats to Ryan Day. Congrats to Julian Sand. Congrats to this defense. How about Matt Patricia, by the way? Matt, what a hire. What a hire by Ryan Day, getting Matt Patricia in there. That was phenomenal. Big-time win for Ohio State. Well, let's head down south for the Iron Bowl. Alabama takes down Auburn 27-20. Here, I'll hide my face so y'all can see the whole stats. I mean, what a nail-biter. What a gutsy performance from the Alabama Crimson Tide. They were up 17-0 in this game. It looked like this game was over. I mean, I was watching it with a friend, and, I mean, Alabama was running all over Auburn. They were Jam Miller was running the ball for like 5 yards a carry, it seemed like. They were explosive out of that. Ty Simpson was playing great. And the defense was locking down. It looked like this game was completely wrapped up. And then Auburn just sort of chipped back, got a couple field goals right before halftime. Halftime hit. They came out of the locker room, and I thought Auburn's offense came alive in the second half. I thought they played great. I mean, Auburn, in the second half, this is their drive chart. They went 4 plays, 68 yards, scored a touchdown. 11 plays, 51 yards, threw an interception. 6 plays, 88 yards, touchdown. 12 plays, 58 yards, fumble. So every single one of their drives in the second half was 50 or more yards. I think Ashton Daniels deserves a heck of a lot of credit. I think that guy balled out. He really played like better than I ever thought that he would have. He played with so much heart. Most of the plays out there, like there was not anybody open. and he just ran around and just made plays. He was a dog. He was an absolute baller, and I really enjoyed watching him. I thought Ashton Daniels played a heck of a game. I think Auburn's offense looked completely different in this game than it had in the past. I didn't really consider that when I was thinking about it. I kind of thought they would run an offense very similar to Hugh Freeze's style. But new offensive coordinator, new head coach, it was almost entirely different. They ran all different formations. They ran really a completely different scheme. I mean, you almost never saw Hugh Freeze running out of empty. That's just not something that he really does. And Auburn was in empty all day long against Auburn, or all night long, I should say. But this is another game for Alabama where I felt like they were kind of outplayed. I mean, just look at the stats. Auburn had more first downs. They were better on third down. They outgained Alabama by over 100 yards, over 130 yards. Auburn, that's how much Auburn outgained Alabama by. I think they played a better football game. Their pass game was way more effective. It was way more explosive. Horatio Fields, for whatever reason, just went off in this football game. I don't really understand why. Um, Actually, Horatio Fields, that's the wide receiver on Notre Dame, isn't it? I'm getting my games confused. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about. The guy on Auburn that had all those receiving yards, he went off. Number 4, that guy. Um, Auburn's run game was pretty much all Ashton Daniels. Their running backs pretty much did nothing in this game, but they ran the ball pretty well with Ashton Daniels because, like I said before, he was a dog out there. But Alabama just made big plays in big moments. Alabama's last drive, my goodness, what an unreal, gutsy, courageous effort for Alabama to take the lead in the final drive of the game for the Crimson Tide. I mean, that drive had everything. There were 3 huge penalties: the holding penalty, the roughing the passer penalty, and there was another penalty that I'm not remembering at this moment. But I thought, for the most part, all 3 of those penalties were good calls. I think a lot of people are going to talk about the roughing the passer one as a bad call, but you can't hit the quarterback below the knee. You can argue as much as you want if that should be the rule or if that shouldn't be the rule. In my opinion, I don't think it should be the rule because I think that's weak. And I get protect the quarterback, but I just think that's against the spirit of the game of football. But it is the rule, and the rule is the rule. And the Auburn player that went and sacked Ty Simpson and hit him below the knees did break the rule, and it's the official's job to throw the flag when a player breaks the rule. Same thing with Isaiah Horton holding on that holding penalty. He broke the rule, and a penalty flag was thrown. But I think that Alabama, I think they played with so much heart. I mean, do we see Daniel Hill's fight on that last drive? Alabama's backup running back came in after Jam Miller got hurt, and he just fought. Like, he got so many dirty yards where he was contacted at or near behind the line of scrimmage, and he fought for like 8 yards after contact. That's what Alabama's been missing in the run game this year, and they had it with Daniel Hill in this one. I thought I thought the coaching staff had a lot of courage going for it on those fourth downs. Alabama was 3 for 3 on fourth down. Just gutsy effort. So I have a lot of respect for what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb did. I have a ton of respect for Ty Simpson. He was not feeling good out there. I mean, he got hit so many times, and yet time and time again, he put his head down and just made plays. He made plays with his heart just as much as it was with his arms and his legs. I will say I think Alabama did a great job taking what Auburn gave them. I think at the beginning of the football game, Auburn only put 3 down linemen, and they didn't load the box at all. And they were saying, we don't trust Alabama to run the football because they haven't all year. So we're not going to stack the box to try and stop the run because the run is non-existent. So instead, we're going to put everybody back to stop their wide receivers, to stop their passing game. And if they run it, then so be it. And guess what? Alabama ran it. They adjusted to what Auburn gave them. In the first half, they ran the ball really, really well. And then Auburn adjusted, and they said, you know what? If Alabama's actually going to run the ball, now we're going to start loading the box. Now we're going to start blitzing every single play pretty much. And we're going to make Ty Simpson and these receivers beat us. And at least at the end of the game, they did. Zay Horton beat man coverage 3 times for touchdowns. Ty Simpson made plays with his legs, rolling around, buying time, and finding guys downfield. Jeremy Bernard made a big play in man coverage. So when Alabama needed their stars to step up most, they were there. And that was very, very impressive for the Crimson Tide. Although I am worried about Alabama. I think that this team is still very incomplete. This team's offensive line is still not where they want it to be. Their running back room is now even more banged up, with Jam Miller being probably out for the Georgia game. He was on crutches at the end of the game. You would assume he's going to be injured. I think this receiving core is still very overrated. I think that Auburn was able to run a lot of man coverage towards the end of the game against Alabama successfully. A lot of teams have been able to do that this season. And, I mean, I don't look at Alabama's receiving core, and it doesn't scare me as much as it did at the beginning of the year, as much as I thought that it would throughout the season. So I think that there's that to consider as well if you're looking at Alabama. But it was a huge win for the Crimson Tide. College football playoff wise, they assumingly are in the playoffs. Of course, they have to play Georgia this week, so their season's not over. And if they beat Georgia, then obviously they're in. They'll be the SEC champion game, or they'll be the SEC champion. They might even get a top 4 seed. But if they lose this game, some people are saying 10-3 Alabama shouldn't be in the playoff. I completely disagree with that. I think that a 10-3 Alabama would make the playoff. Not just because I think they would deserve to make the playoffs first of all, but if they don't make the playoffs, if they go to an SEC championship game because they won the right to be there and they lose and they miss the playoff, the entire SEC would just lose their minds. And we would descend into college football anarchy. If 10-3 Alabama, as one of the members of the SEC championship game, doesn't make the playoffs, chaos. Chaos. I mean, fire will rain down from the sky if that happens. But a big time win for Alabama, heck of a game. And Auburn, of course, you got a lot to build on with this team. We'll see who they can maintain. I know that there'll be a coaching overhaul there. I thought John Summerall was going to go to the Tigers, but it's looking like he's going to the Gators. So I don't know who Auburn's going to get, but whoever they get, they'll have to try and retain the players they have while also acquiring more talent. But Auburn lost all of their SEC games by 10 or less points. They were in the fight, man. I have a lot of respect for Auburn for really not giving up, for playing their heart out in almost every single game they played. And once again, they just barely came up short. But congrats to Alabama for getting a big-time win against their hated rivals. How about the Vanderbilt Commodores, man? Can we talk about the Vanderbilt Commodores? I feel like nobody's talking about the Vanderbilt Commodores out there. Vanderbilt just went on the road at Tennessee and dominated the Volunteers in the fourth quarter. I mean, this game was tied 21-21 at halftime. And Vandy won the second half 24-3. So, heck of a performance from Vanderbilt. I have so much respect for what this team does. This game was close. I mean, if you look at the box score of this game, Vanderbilt had 200 more yards of total offense than Tennessee. They had 6 more first downs. They were better on third down, even though Tennessee was great on third down. But I mean, this game was close. It was tied at halftime. It was a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. But Vanderbilt, they just had the fight. They had the passion. Their offense has been so good. They have scored 45 points exactly in the last 3 games they've played, all against SEC teams. That is phenomenal. They've had over 500 yards of total offense in 3 straight football games. Diego Pavia's stat line in this game. He had 268 yards passing, 1 touchdown through the air. He had those 2 interceptions, and then added 165 yards on the ground and a touchdown. Tennessee's front 7 is good, man. They've got talent on that front 7. And Vanderbilt just lined up and ran the ball for 314 yards against Tennessee. I thought that was so impressive what they were able to do. I think Vanderbilt is really peaking at the right time. Diego Pavia is playing so good. And it's not just him either. Cedric Alexander played great in this game. Eli Stowers is a stud. MK Young is really coming on. Junior Searle's great. I mean, this whole offensive staff is phenomenal. And they're really, really tough to stop. And they had an identity. I think Vanderbilt won this game in the third quarter. This game was tied at halftime, like I said. Vanderbilt went out right after the half and went 11 plays, 75 yards, took a ton of time off the clock, scored a touchdown, and go up by 7. Then they kicked the ball off to Tennessee, and Tennessee had a chance. With about halfway through the third quarter, they had a chance to go down and tie the game. And then it went 3 and out. And when they went 3 and out, the game was over. Because Vandy drained out the whole rest of the third quarter, kicked a field goal, and then scored on every possession that they had the ball in the fourth. So I think the third quarter was the swing moment for Vandy. I loved Diego Pavia's post-game interview talking about how, he's proving people wrong. Nobody cared about him. And the reporter asked how he does that. And he says, well, I just got faith in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I think Diego Pavia has grown a lot in his faith this year. I think that's amazing. I think the Vanderbilt team's got a great culture. I think Clark Lee's phenomenal. They've extended him at Vanderbilt. That's an A-plus move for the Commodores. And I want to see Vanderbilt in the playoffs so badly. I think they so deserve it. I think this win is credited to that. And, I mean, I love this Vanderbilt team. I'm so proud of them. This is a huge, huge win. First win over Tennessee, I think, in 7 years. So, big-time dub for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And, yes, in my opinion, they deserve to be in the playoff. Oklahoma gets a crazy win over LSU 17-13. Now, let me explain why this is crazy. So, Oklahoma, in the last few SEC games that they've won, this is how it's looked. They get outgained by their opponent. Their offense struggles. but they play great defense. They hold teams to field goals and don't let them make touchdowns. And they win the turnover battle, and their front seven just sort of gets home. They get sacks, and that's how they win games. They don't air you out. They don't dominate you on the ground. They don't put up big offensive performances. They just win the turnover battle and play good defense. Well, that's what LSU did in this game. They played great defense. They were phenomenal in the red zone. They held Oklahoma to a field goal at one point in this game, and they won the turnover battle 3-1. And yet Oklahoma still found a way to win this game because LSU completely blew a coverage. I mean, LSU basically Oklahoma to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma still found a way to win the game. They were terrible on third down. They ran the ball for only 75 yards. They were not very productive on that side of the football. And those 3 turnovers, man, they were not timely at all. They were rough, and they were really in a position to lose this football game, but they found a way to win. Isaiah Satania had a great game. John Mateer keeps saying, doesn't matter how we do it, doesn't matter how ugly it is, we're winning games. That's what we're focused on. And I love that out of him. I think it's very true. So shout out to Oklahoma to be 10-2. I said at the beginning of the year, Oklahoma would win this game against LSU to make the playoffs as a 9-3 team. I was wrong. They're making the playoffs as a 10-2 team. So shout out to Oklahoma. They did a great job in this game to win it. They completely outgained. I mean, look at total yards. Oklahoma had near 400 total yards of offense. LSU had just 198. So I thought Oklahoma was a better team than LSU very clearly. But those turnovers, man, it almost bit them in the butt this time. But they found a way to win. So great job, Boomer Sooner. Let's look at what conference championship weekend is going to be. Of course, it makes sense in the Big Ten. The two 12-0 undefeated teams, number 1 versus number 2, Ohio State versus Indiana. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm very excited about that game. The winner will get the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. The loser will probably get a first-round bye. I think it would be a travesty if the loser of this game does not get a first-round bye. I'll preview these games more throughout the week when I look at them more. I'm really tired right now. But I'm really excited about that game. It's going to be amazing. Alabama plays Georgia once again. Another rematch between the Dogs and the Tide in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. The winner, if Georgia wins, you'd assume they might get the 2 seed. And if Alabama wins against Georgia again, first of all, it'd be crazy. I mean, whatever. I wonder if Georgia fans, if they look at this game with excitement or if they look at this game with dread. I really don't know. Texas Tech plays BYU. Both these teams handled their business today. Texas Tech got their biggest road win in conference in program history. And BYU survived a 14-0 deficit at home to UCF to clinch their spot in the Big 12 championship game. That's going to be a fun one to watch. I'm excited to watch it. And then Virginia plays Duke. Duke, man, how on earth are you in this game? I love that. Honestly, I love it so much. I love that Duke's in this game. They're 7-5, and they're in the ACC championship game. They've lost to UConn, Illinois, and Tulane, and they're in the ACC championship game. If Duke wins the ACC championship, it's a crazy scenario. The ACC might not get a team in the playoffs because if you don't, you might not get your ACC champion in because there's going to be 2 teams, James Madison and the American Conference champion, that are probably going to be ranked higher than Duke as conference champions. So the 5 highest ranked conference champions that make the playoffs are going to come from the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, American, and Sun Belt, and not the ACC, which means the ACC's only hope at getting a team in the playoff would be Miami with an at-large bid. So anyway, these are the 4 games that we're going to see on Saturday. It's going to be an awesome slate. I cannot wait for them, especially the top 2. Those are going to be phenomenal. Tech and BYU is going to be great. And if Virginia wins, they're in. If Duke wins, they're probably not in, but they're ACC champions. Somehow, I have no idea how Duke would win an ACC championship this year based on how they've played in the non-conference and based on how they've looked just pretty much all season long. And with BYU and Texas Tech, the winner is definitely in the playoffs. The loser, I don't know. The jury is still out on if the loser will be in or not. So, with that being said, let's look at the playoff picture going into the final week of the season and going into, I guess, conference championship week. So, I think there are 9 teams that we can say pretty definitively are safely in the playoffs. Of course, Ohio State and India are pretty self-explanatory. They're 12-0 in the Big 12. They're not going to get jumped enough for them to be out of the playoffs. They are safely in. Georgia and Alabama are in the SEC championship game. I explained why I think Alabama should be in, no matter if they win or lose. Georgia, of course, if they win or lose, is definitely still going to be in the playoffs. Those 4 teams are safe. And then you have Oklahoma, Oregon, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Those 4 do not play in conference championship weekend. Oklahoma is set at 10-2. Ole Miss, Oregon, and A&M are set at 11-1. I think it's very obvious why Oregon, Ole Miss, and A&M should be in at 11-1. I mean, none of the other bubble teams have that record. I think 11-1 speaks for itself. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. And then we have Oklahoma and Texas Tech. These are very interesting teams. I think that they are pretty much safely in. I think if you ask most people, you'd say they're safely in. To me, I don't think Texas Tech should be safely in. I think if Texas Tech loses, I think Texas Tech and BYU should be really close to each other in the rankings. And if whoever wins the Big 12 championship, like they should be affected equally if they lose. But I don't know. We'll still have to see. Which means those are 9 teams, right? Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, and Texas A&M. Those are 9 teams that the committee probably has marked as safely in the field at this point. And then you also have to take into account there's going to be 2 spots stolen by either Virginia or 2 Group of 5 champions. So that's another 2 spots that go away. So you take your 9 teams that are safely in right now, you take your 2 other spots. That means you have to look at the bubble teams right now. Those are 6 teams. So those listening, that's Notre Dame, BYU, Utah, Texas, Vanderbilt, and Miami. And guess how many spots they have for those 6 teams? 1 singular spot. What on earth is the committee going to do? Are you going to take Notre Dame over Miami? Miami beat Notre Dame. I don't know. Are you going to take Vanderbilt over Texas? Vanderbilt beat Texas. Are you going to take Utah over BYU? BYU beat Utah. So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's honestly, I will give my opinion later. I am honestly just very tired right now. I need to go to bed. But this is just the situation that we are in. I think everyone is saying, oh, Notre Dame deserves to be in the playoffs. Vanderbilt deserves to be in the playoffs. Miami does. Texas does. All these teams deserve to be in the playoffs. Well, if you say they deserve to be in the playoffs, then you're saying that the other teams that you also said deserve to be in the playoffs are not going to be in the playoffs. So there's only 12 spots. And I think the committee is going to have a really hard time picking the 12 teams. I will get my opinion on this out probably tomorrow night. I'm sorry, this is a shorter instant reactions video. I'm just very tired. I've had a very exhausting day, and I need to get to bed. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. God bless. And just like Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza and Diego Pavia have all been saying, and that's why I love the culture of college football, nothing in our lives is possible without the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Through God, we are fulfilled. Through God, we find happiness. And without God, there is no true fulfillment. So make sure to always lean on Jesus in times of stress, in times of worry, in times of whatever it may be. And I'm always here praying for every single one of y'all. And Jesus is also always there for you. So with that, God bless. Thanks so much for watching and enjoy the holiday season. Have a good one, folks.